Hello, everyone. Welcome back for another Positive Talk, episode 269. This is crazy. Hopefully, you all have been having a good week so far. We're just getting started. I know that I had a fun, eventful weekend. I got to go to one of my friends' weddings, which was amazing. Third wedding of the year, pretty much back to back, which was crazy. Ask questions in the comments. We will try our best to get to them. Let's see. Hello.
Howdy, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
Good, thanks.
Good. I know that I don't normally do them earlier in the day, so when it comes to people jumping on, I think there's going to be a lot of people here that are coming on for you. So I will let you introduce yourself so people know who you are, and then we can jump into a fun conversation.
Cool. My name is Christian Wild. I am an adult performer, a studio website owner, content creator, and yeah, I'm just happy to be here.
Awesome. I know that when it comes to doing the type of work that you do, that you get a certain fan group, and then it also comes to the point of people get to know you on camera, but not really who you are behind the scenes. So when it comes to the journey that you've been on, like, I'd definitely love to hear about, like, when it comes to mindset, when it comes to the life of kind of living in that world, because I know that I've had some friends that are also in that industry, and it's not always the kindest industry, but you've got to have a certain mindset to like navigate through it. Did we freeze? Let's see. We froze. Let's invite back in. Oh, are we good?
Yeah, I think I lost you for a second, but
Did you hear what I was asking?
yeah, I did.
Awesome.
I did. I caught it.
Perfect.
So I began doing my job a long time ago, shortly after I became able to do my job at 18. And since then, a lot has changed, and a lot has changed not only about, the industry that I'm in and how different it is now versus what it was when I first started, but it's also I'm different as a person from when I started versus now, and my sexuality has evolved. My understanding of who I am as a person has evolved. My understanding of how I live my life and what's important to me has evolved. Like, all these things have changed quite dramatically since but I've been doing pornography throughout that entire journey. And I've always really valued time. I've valued my time above everything else. And I've had like a bunch of what most folks would call normal jobs, or civilian jobs where, you have like a 9 to 5. I don't know that I've ever had a full-time 9 to 5 job.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny to think about at 34 years old, but I have had plenty of regular types of jobs in multiple different industries, and every single time I find myself feeling the same way, which is I don't feel like my time is worth being in the place that I'm in. I would much rather spend my time doing something way, way different. And so I quit.
Yeah.
And I can go back and then I end up back doing sex work in some form or fashion or another. And it's always been the one thing that's allowed me to have the most control of my time and feel like I'm getting paid for the right amount for the energy and the effort that I'm putting into what I'm doing. And I get to be my own boss, and I get to, you know, call my own shots and work when I want to, which is its own problem in itself. You know, that's a whole separate
Yeah.
thing. I'm lazy. You know, I got into sex work because I want to make a lot of money and I want to make it quickly and I want to make it, and I'm good at it. You know, there's a lot to being in the adult industry that most people don't know about when it comes to making a quality content piece for someone to enjoy versus just sticking something up in the corner and letting it film. They're two different things, you know.
Yeah.
And um, yeah, I mean, I can talk about my job for hours and hours and hours. So
Yeah. I
it,
mean, one thing that you said that I kind of relate to is getting to make your own schedule. When I jumped into being an entrepreneur and doing my own thing, and then jumped back into the corporate world of things, I realized that there was so much wasted time that I could be doing stuff that I enjoyed, and I couldn't make my own schedule, and I felt like I was being spoken to as if I was like a child that didn't know how to adult in the world. And I was just like, this is not for me. Like, I've had a taste of what it feels like to own my own schedule and decide when and like what I work on each day.
yeah.
And I was like, I don't know if I want to go back to this lifestyle because it's definitely not built for everyone. It's not really built for me. And I think that from a very early age, I was kind of working on things on the side and knew that my passions existed there. So I can definitely relate there. And when it comes to like industry changes, it's definitely a thing. You were talking about, it's a lot more than just posting a camera somewhere and just uploading that. There are so many people now because we've got OnlyFans and all the other platforms where people can kind of share work. You don't have to sign with any type of studio or anything like that. So how have you kind of navigated through that? Because I know there's definitely a lot more people out there trying to make money creating content online now.
I think it's phenomenal. I really, I think it's absolutely wonderful because, like I said, you know, 10, 12, 15 years ago, you were reliant on the studio to hire you again and again and again because we got paid for the day. You get your day rates check and that's it. You don't get any recurring, you know, revenue. Most of us don't anyways. And you get your one-time fee for the day as an independent contractor that you're paying 33% tax on. And you hope that they're going to ask you back.
Yeah.
And they have all the power, and starting your own thing is enormously expensive and enormously complicated and almost gatekept at that point, you know. And now it's put out your ID, make a couple of videos, let something go viral, and you're making a living on OnlyFans. And I think that's incredible. I think that what OnlyFans and that type of content creation allowed for people to do is kind of rethink how they felt about what sex work looks like. Because I think a lot of people discovered, like, oh, maybe I don't have to do exactly what I pictured in my mind in order to be a sex worker and make money doing it and still be comfortable doing it. And then you got people showing feet, and you got people, you know, doing sexy things but not fully getting nude, or whatever it is that happens to be. There's a lot to choose from. And now people have the opportunity to do that for themselves and make a living at it. And I think it's reshaping what people's opinion are and ideas are around what it means to be a sex worker.
Yeah. Do you feel like, because I grew up in a very conservative household, and then of course we hear a lot of conservative views out in the world when it comes to opinions around sex work. Do you think that that's something that you had to kind of overcome and learn to adapt to kind of live through people's judgment? Because I imagine sex work is a lot like people that content create on other platforms as well. Like, you're very well known to the audiences that watch the content, and then maybe in your day-to-day life, not as many people know you when you're walking around in public. But when you do find those people that know you, they know you pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, nobody knows me in my real life. Nobody outside of, you know, mostly. I mean, there's occasions where I will meet somebody on the street or have somebody approach me. A gay man will come up to me and say, "Are you Christian Wilde?" And I say, "Yes." And they say, "It's nice to meet you. I love your stuff." And we have this awesome dialogue and this, fun communication, and we hug. And I say, "Thanks for being a supporter, and I really appreciate it." And nobody else really knows, or most of the time when I meet people for the first time and they ask, what do you do for a living? I usually just tell them something to do with social media, you know,
Yeah.
and I know it's complicated. Or, when I have to open a business bank account for my website and they go, what is your business? And I go, oh, it's social media content creation. Because I've had tons of friends that go to open bank accounts and they go, I do adult content creation or I do pornography. And they go and they go, oh, 1 second. And then the bank manager comes back and they say, we're sorry, we can't open a bank account for you here.
Yeah.
So still that really affects a lot of different things in life. Or you've had people's 9 to 5 job finds out that they're doing content creation on the side and then they lose their job, which is, it's still very thought about in this way that is a conservative, shunned, thought down upon type of industry. And I recognize that, and I know that I live in that fringe, but the benefits outweigh the negatives by far.
Yeah. I it's very interesting because I used to work for the health department, and when it came to, I got to be the prep manager for the state of Virginia, and I also live next to Liberty University, which is the largest Christian university in the world. And when it came to like STIs and things that were spreading, it was more so on the Christian side of things. Like, I worked in Charlottesville. Lynchburg is about an hour, 10 minutes away. People would drive from Lynchburg to Charlottesville to come to our clinic because they were so scared of being judged. But like, the conversation around safety and protecting yourself as a person when it comes to having sex, I've learned that when it comes to people who are more willing and open to talk about it freely and understand it, are people who are actually safer from spreading and catching anything, because there's still that level of shame around talking about it. I know because of my upbringing, a lot of times when I first came out, I was blushing hardcore anytime, like, I'd be at work and someone just asked me about something that I thought was something you should keep very private. And it took me a long time to like adjust to being okay with talking about it. But I've found that it builds stronger relationships, not having that shame, because it's part of the relationship. If there's shame there, it's existent in that relationship. So how has your journey been around that? Because I'm sure there's still lots of people who are growing around you where in an area where you've kind of had to overcome that early.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm very lucky. I grew up in Northern California in a very progressive household, and nothing was ever necessarily forbidden to talk about or to know about. And I discovered sex way before I should have, to
Yeah.
be honest. But I think that I was always just more naturally curious about a sexual life and a sexual world, and I'd always been more drawn to that. And so I sought out the information, and that's exactly how I discovered my job and how I got into doing sex work. And I began doing sex work in person. I was an escort in the beginning of my sex work journey before I ever did movies. And so I've done both, and I've experienced both of those worlds, and been done stage dancing and had all kinds of different experiences as someone who shares my body in a sexual way. And there's something very freeing about not having that hindrance and that shame and that inability to discuss it as a subject because it feels so forbidden. and it feels so taboo, and it makes you feel so uncomfortable, but you're so wickedly, burningly curious, and you want to know and you want to talk about it, but it's weird and it's awkward. And to have somebody to have those honest conversations with, I think is very vital. Like you said, it increases the depth and the weight of these friendships and relationships that we have when we can have these conversations openly and earnestly and honestly, and talk about things in a way that brings clarity, and it brings a sense of relief and comfort, and now we understand what's going on and what this is and what it feels like and why, and there's a maybe a sense of completion to that. And I think that that's an awesome thing.
Yeah. I mean, because I'm someone who goes back to the churches to educate them on LGBT people, of course, sex work is something that gets brought up in the conversation, and something that a lot of people aren't aware of is like when it comes to being LGBT, when it comes to, thankfully, we're getting to a time where there's more space for the community in the world. We're fighting for it every like tooth and nail. We're getting there, but sex work and OnlyFans and platforms like that are creating spaces for people to be able to make an income where a lot of places they're not able to make enough money to make ends meet. And I think that a lot of people aren't so aware of that, as well as some people aren't doing it because they're struggling financially. Some people do it because they enjoy creating content. They enjoy sex. They enjoy the intimacy of being filmed, doing things. And I think that there's a mindset that people attach to it, like saying, well, why would I do sex work? Oh, I would have to be in a very desperate situation to do this. But that's not the case for a lot of people. And I think that the conversations around that need to be opened up a lot more, because I started diving into like, why are trans people at higher risk than other LGBT members when it comes to just living life? And in a lot of situations, maybe it's escort, maybe it's OnlyFans, maybe it's other things, but being trans can be very unsafe if you're not open about it, if you're not in the safe space. So having more conversations about it so that people can understand the vastness that exists there, because I think that it's still something we try to push down into the shadows and not talk about, but conversations have to be had because there are lives on the line when it comes to this type of stuff.
Yeah, totally.
So when it comes to looking back at 18-year-old you to you today, like, what do you think is like the most like growth you've seen in yourself as a person?
That's a really great question. Um, I think the change in my ability to alter my opinions and the way that I see the world that I live in. I'm no longer super attached to an identity, or I'm no longer really attached to the idea of what I think about something or a certain subject, or a certain, if I feel one way or another on a topic. I'm so easily swayed nowadays. Like if you can talk to me in a way that is respectful and you share your opinion on a certain matter, and you can, I'm open to having my mind changed a lot more now as an older man than a younger man.
Yeah.
I appreciate that the most, I think. I appreciate that I don't have to hold fast and firm to any feelings or belief systems that I have about the world around me or the people in it or myself. Anything can change at any time depending on, I could wake up tomorrow and be an entirely different human being if I want to. Chances are I won't be.
Yeah.
I reserve that right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that it's fun to explore the world with wider eyes than assuming that the world only functions the way you've known it to function.
Yeah.
Because I think it's fun to, the more interactions with people, because I mean, I'm sure you've met people from all over the place. So you've learned that maybe the way things are done in California aren't necessarily the way things are done in other places, but that doesn't make one right or wrong. And that was one thing I tried to explain to people about like the military as well. It's like that opens people's eyes because maybe people from the South have a very strong opinion about something, people in the North have a very strong opinion. But when you come together in a space where those don't matter as much as what is now present in this moment, a lot of people's minds are kind of shattered and they get to have that experience of maybe the way I see the world is only one way of seeing it. And if you go out into the world with the mindset of, I want to learn as many perspectives as possible, it really shifts the way you get to see the world.
Agreed.
So when it comes to meeting new people in the realm of doing adult films, what is some advice that you give people who are kind of jumping into it as newbies? Because I believe there's always going to be a market for it. So there's always going to be those new 18, 19-year-old people coming into the industry. What's some advice that maybe you wish someone gave you or that you try to give them when they come in?
Wow. I think if I met myself like first scene, I would say be smart with your money first and foremost. Make sure that you don't blow everything. Save some for taxes.
Yes.
Probably number one would be respect who you are and what you like, and don't break that for anybody else's wants or desires. If you don't feel comfortable doing something, don't ever do it, no matter what the offering is or whatever it happens to be. That would be number one. Number two, don't blow your money, save some for taxes. Number three, realize that the job is going to influence your life in ways that you might not have anticipated. Like if you want to work with children later on down the line in your life, you might want to rethink it. Or if you want to be a police officer, or you want to be anything in the public eye, or anything of that type of, you have to really think about maybe later in life, you want to be something that this might kind of fuck up. Want to do that. So think twice. Other than that, I mean, I've had some insane experiences. I mean, insane when I think back on them. And I've traveled all over the world. Literally. Like I've been to almost like 5 different continents because of my job. Like it's such a bananas life that I live as a result of doing sex work. And when I think about that versus going and working at like a Chevron and, running the cashier back then, not that there's anything not respectable about that. That just isn't, I couldn't have that as my life.
Yeah.
I'm so blessed and fortunate that I don't have to. And I realize that also. I realize that a lot of it has to do with just sheer dumb luck. I'm tall and I'm handsome and I have a big dick and it works well. And that does for everybody. And I understand that. I'm so lucky. I think about it all the time. But I'm enjoying it. I'm not mad about enjoying it either. I'm not mad about utilizing it and enjoying my life as a result,
Yeah.
I've gotten some of the most amazing people and some of the most beautiful, beautiful souls, Yeah. It's great.
When it comes to meeting people in that industry and getting to know one another, there is still acting involved. There's still the personalities that we see on film versus personalities that exist off of camera.
Yes.
So like, are there people that you've met where you're just like blown away by the person standing in front of you, being someone maybe not at all like what you see on camera?
Definitely. That's definitely happened a lot. And that's happened reverse. You know, a lot of people have met me and they've gone, God, I did not think that I would like you this much. You portray such a different person when I see you online or when I see your social media stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's because that's all fake. That's all nonsense. That's all not real life. You know, that's not who I am.
Yeah.
89, 90% of the time. You know?
Yeah. That's like one of the, like when I first started doing Positive Talks, I had a lot of friends and people that I was connected with off of social media platforms, but I heard people's opinions of these people. And I was like, that's not at all what I get when I'm with them. So
Yeah.
it's fun to kind of connect with people and get to know them on a more authentic level, because there's lots of sides to people. And I always tell people social media and the internet usually shows like less than 1% of who a person is. Even when you're on camera like this, like there's things going on around you. Maybe like someone like me who's like, if I'm fidgeting off screen, like people don't see that because I hold it down below. But there's a lot of things that we can control what people see if it's a camera with only a certain viewpoint.
Yeah, 100%.
But that's, and one thing that you touched on that I think is really important is like when it comes to doing stuff that maybe you don't want to do, like understanding yourself is so important, because a lot of times people don't realize like there are people out there that can do sex work and enjoy it, and they are like, okay, this is part of my life, where there are some other people who may do it and really destroy themselves with their own mind, saying, something's wrong with me, this is not right, I'm gross for doing this. And if you're doing it and you're destroying yourself internally, like it might not be the industry for you, because you don't want, at the end of the day, to hate yourself for what you're doing. And I think that that's across any career path. Like, think about, know yourself. Like, is this something that at the end of the day that you're destroying yourself for doing, or is it something that you can celebrate and be proud of? And it's all across the board. Like, I've met people all across the board where I'm just like, maybe you should try another career path.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's such an important thing to have, to listen to your gut. You know, like there's been plenty of situations where I didn't do that. I didn't, and I should have, and I didn't, and I regretted it afterwards. And I could have avoided that if I had just listened to what I was feeling at the time. But to be fair, on the flipped end of that, there's so much growth that needs to happen to understand and be able to have the ability to just say something out loud. That varies from person to person. Like, people don't enjoy conflict at varying degrees, and people have a difficult time speaking up for themselves or standing their own ground to varying degrees. And so I think I needed to have some of those experiences to realize, oh, the next time I'm not going to let that happen again. I'm going to listen to my gut. You know, those are the lessons that I needed to learn out of experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very, very important, especially when it comes to things with your body, you know, because one wrong thing, one thing that happens can really just derail your whole feeling about who you are as a person and as a whole human being for a very long time. So it's not anything, you know, small to play with by any means. It's very serious, you know.
I've been listening to a lot of like child actors who talk about experiences in the industry of Hollywood and acting, and how mistreated a lot of youth can be within just regular Disney Nickelodeon, whatever TV show they end up on. When it comes to, I'm sure, the adult film industry, when you're coming into it at 18, 19, I mean, thinking back of myself at that age, like I would not want him making decisions for me now as a 33-year-old adult. So I just think that when it comes to those types of things, is there like more structure coming into it to help protect people who are jumping into the industry versus when you were coming in at 18? Because we talked a little bit about before, it was a studio, so there's a lot more, you kind of have to do what the studio wants you to do, versus now there's so many different options. Do you see like it being a safer space for people now than when you first started?
Big time. And it's exactly how you think it used to be with like the you know, mainstream movie industry, where if you want to roll, you want to get into a movie, maybe you got to suck a little dick on the side. Maybe you got to do a little something that you might not want to do on the side to get that role. And it was very much like that. And there was a lot of just abuse and mistreatment and shady dealings happening on a regular basis, more often than by far when I first started. But now what's awesome is, like it is, we're talking about, they don't have to rely on the studio as much anymore. But on top of that, you have a whole ethical side of the industry and a whole very dedicated side of the industry to protecting rights and consent and all these things that are very, very important to us. And I, as a performer now, take it very, very seriously when I'm on set with somebody who it's their first or second or fifth or 10th scene and they haven't been doing it a long time, to say, hey, don't ever let anybody tell you that what you can and can't do with your body. I let it all out so that it's very clear, and it's a responsibility of mine, I feel like, to say something and to make that communication known of, don't let anybody tell you that you have to do something that you don't feel comfortable doing at any point, for any reason, anywhere.
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to your body, and including me. You know, like, I want you to say something. I want to hear it. I'm not even saying this to say it like, yeah, you're comfortable here, you know. But
Yeah.
really, honestly, earnestly, if at any point you can absolutely say something out loud to me, you can say it in any way, you can scream it in my face. I beg of you, feel comfortable enough to say something if you feel like you don't like what's happening with your body.
Yeah.
A lot of people feel like that in the industry now, versus, and like, social media won't let it happen. Social media calls that shit out like that, and then there's a fire wave, and you know, things get found out. And so it's beautiful now. It's a really great industry to work in. I think I love it. I really have grown to love it. I get burnt out on it like anybody else, but it's a job. You know, nobody likes the job 100% of the time.
Yeah. But the nice thing is you're a little bit more in control of, like, hey, I'm going to take some time away from this for a little bit because I need this time. And I think that that's beautiful. I think having, because I grew up with the content creation on YouTube and watched where that grew to where social media content creators on YouTube were also needing representation. They were needing fair laws to be created for their safety and respect. And the porn industry has definitely been around longer than YouTube has. But I think that the more you look at it, because even when we go back to like maybe something that was just impacting the LGBT community at large, there were definitely other people impacted, but like AIDS wasn't really taken seriously for a long time. So like I feel like when it comes to a lot of the stuff that is being created to protect YouTubers and content creators on those platforms, it covers other platforms as well to create safety. I know that just talking to people about taxes, being a content creator who makes money from brand deals and stuff like that, that was something that a lot of tax people weren't super aware of and helpful. I had to specifically look for someone who understood the realm that I existed in and now I have to be more specific because when I tell people, oh yeah, I do content creation online, and instantly you can tell their face when they're like, oh, OnlyFans. So it's now like, I remember I used to just be able to say, oh, I do online content creation. But now, like, I'm like, well, I do lives and podcasts and YouTube. Not that I would be ashamed of saying it, but it's definitely, you can see people's faces. I remember I had my camera set up at my bed because I didn't really have anywhere else to film a YouTube video, and I was doing it with my mom. I was living with two very conservative guys, and they walked past my door in the shocked faces that they had, because I had light shining and then a camera pointed there, and I was like, oh, they are walking away from this with a completely different idea. So I was like, I'm going to have a conversation with them later, but it was very interesting because it's starting to be known and people will start to see those types of things. But it's really funny for people to kind of, because even I, on a day-to-day basis, unless I'm in an LGBT space, no one knows who I am, and I kind of like that. I've been around people who are a lot more well-known to the world, and that seems a lot of pressure compared to what I like. If I go to a YouTube event or an LGBT space and people recognize me, like, I'm socially awkward in real life. So like if people approach me that I don't know, like I am nothing like I am on a camera with people not in the same space as me.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I I couldn't imagine being that famous. I don't think I would like it very much. I like having an anonymity. I like having the ability to move through an airport. You know, I like the ability to live my life separate from all of that, you know, and I enjoy it that way. I do have two very separate lives. I have my work life, and I'll go to, you know, the AVNs or the XBiz Awards or whatever porn situation there is to deal with, and I'll have that fun, and I'll be Christian Wilde there, and then I'll leave, and I'll go live my life as not Christian Wilde. And I like the separation very much, and I can't imagine not being able to do that and having it all blend together. And there's certain aspects of it that are great. I live in Las Vegas now, and here is a gigantic community of people in the adult industry in some form or fashion. And so I get to hang out with like-minded people all the time, and queer people and LGBT folk, and all kinds of different videographers, directors, PAs, producers, you know, grips, all kinds of different people. We all get together and we hang out, and it's like we have an office a little bit when we come together. Work a lot of the time for me nowadays when I get hired by a studio is my friends. Is people known for like a decade or more, and I see them and I hug them and I go, how's your partner? And I love you. And it's so good to see you. And, you know, let's go get dinner. When are we hanging out? Let's do a barbecue. Yeah. So it's an awesome thing to be a part of, really.
Yeah. I mean, I found when I run into other content creators and people who understand the amount of work that you have to put in to create content and it do well, all the back work that people never get to see. It's definitely a group of people where you feel like you can just be yourself more because you don't have to over explain anything, because it's just like they understand. They're part of this. They know what it's like. So one thing that I, on my journey, sadly accumulated was some stalkers. When I first started my content creating, I had my full name out there for everyone to know. And of course, people who want to meet you or know more about you are going to go above and beyond to connect dots that maybe, since you're not the type of person that does that, don't see all the dots that are out there to connect. Have you dealt with anything where it's just like, I have some people who are crossing the lines that I would like them to not cross?
Very rarely, very rarely, and only ever in person.
Okay.
You know, only ever at like public events or something where, you know, somebody might like grab me inappropriately or something kind of odd like that. But that's such a rarity. Most of the time, literally, that I've ever met anybody, they've been super respectful, super sweet, super kind, like very shy and adorable, you know. And we've had really awesome interactions. You know, I'm not difficult. I kind of look difficult to approach because I have like tattoos and I'm really tall and stuff. And sometimes I get like a frown on my face. But if somebody, you know, walks up to me and says, "Hi, do I know you from jerking off to you?" then I usually say, "Yeah, yes, you do."
Yeah.
And then they're very, you know, they're usually very sweet about it. But I'm not. Yeah, I've never really worried about that too much. It is a possibility because I know I have friends that's kind of happened to, and that's definitely is like a weird part of having to worry about something like that, you know. But I guess everybody kind of does it a little bit, you know. If somebody can have like a crazy ex-boyfriend or, you know, some weird colleague from work in the office or something like that, you know.
Yeah.
It could happen to anybody. But I've definitely dealt with like some weird emails, some weird letters. My phone number has been online, so I've dealt with some weird phone calls. But luckily,
Yeah.
you know, knock on wood, somewhere, not too much,
Yeah.
not too bad.
Yeah. It's definitely to the point where the internet gives people access to a lot more information than most people are happy to share. But it's definitely a thing that you have to navigate when people see you out there. And I'm just learning lessons as I go, which I am okay with. I try not to allow it to impact the way that I create content for people and what I'm going out there to do. I have to constantly pull myself back and be like, you're doing this for this. You're not like, don't start creating content for the people who are crossing the boundaries there.
Yeah.
But one industry that I feel like is starting to push on everyone's doors is the AI industry of the world. So how is the porn industry discussing AI and it coming? I mean, there are people out there that there's anime porn, so we already knew that there was animated porn out there. But when it comes to AI and people's faces being able to be used and stuff like that, how have you all been like talking through that and navigating it?
I, I I'm not a representative of the adult industry by any means.
Yeah.
So I have no idea, but I can only imagine. Like, typically over time, the advancement in certain technologies has happened directly as a result of pornography.
Yeah.
Directly. It was created specifically for something to do with the adult industry and then migrated into civilian usage. And I think AI is probably going to have a lot of that going on for it as well, which is super spooky. I've already been a part of like virtual reality porn, and I think it's going to get very weird. I think it's going to get very weird very fast. It's over the next like few years, all of a sudden there's going to be like this mad explosion of like, oh wow. I don't know. I can't call it. It's going to be very strange. I'm old enough for this to be very, 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 very odd for me. You know. Like,
Yeah.
I remember pre-internet. I remember pre-computers and pre-cell phones, and so to have this be the world that we're living in now, where it's literally having, you know, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, talking about, so it's too much for me. It's too much. It makes me want to like move to the woods and start a homestead and just pretend like it doesn't exist.
Yeah. I know that I worked for Samsung for a little bit, and when they first came out with like their VR goggles, It was funny because I lived in Lynchburg, where like the big Christian university was, and my boss was putting the goggles on different people, and he wasn't very good at reading people, and people would put the goggles on. And he's like, and now imagine this with porn, and like you could just see jaws drop because like these people, I'm sure they watched it, but I don't think they were willing to talk about it in public spaces, like in the middle of a Best Buy. But it was very interesting because that was something that some people were like asking about. Like you get the husbands that would wait for their wives to kind of step away, and they're like, so are there like porn things? And I'm like, I honestly have not researched that. As a representative of this brand, I'm not sure that they want me to be talking about this, but sure, the internet is a vast place. I'm sure you can find something for your Samsung headset.
Oh, you absolutely can. You absolutely can.
There are tons of things out there for people to find, and I think when it comes to the advancement of everything, I think anyone who leans into it and is smart, you talked about like being smart and knowing what you're signing up for and knowing that you can say no. With the world of AI, like that's something that people need to be aware of. Like, don't sign your face or body away to an AI project because you never know what that's going to bring in the future to yourself.
I mean, pretty soon you might not have to. Pretty soon it might be like, hey, Siri, design me a VR porn with Ben Drummond as the bottom.
Yeah.
I don't have any say in the matter anymore. It's just going to make that happen for me. You never even knew it. Spooky. I mean, I don't know. We're venturing into new territory. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. I think that that's something you have to be aware of, and then just, I mean, we can't stop it. And I also, like, just from the minor things that I've had to deal with being on the internet is just knowing that they're not as fast as the internet. So when it comes to protection and all of that stuff, it's really about getting some protections in place that protect people, but know that the internet and creations of AI is going to be way ahead of the game.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Let's see. Oops. Right back. There we go. we were losing a lot of connection. I was like, I can't see you anymore. But yeah, so I see that we're getting close to the end of the hour. So when it comes to just day-to-day life of you, like what are some things that you kind of enjoy that maybe people don't get to know about you from anything else that you're doing professionally?
I don't know. I don't think that there's too much that I don't share on social media. You know, like I like to try different things. I like to experience different stuff. Love to travel. I tend to be outdoorsy and adventurous. I don't get to do that as much lately just because of work and stuff. But yeah, I'm not too special, you know. I don't have any crazy hobbies or anything like that. I don't like knit or practice, you know,
Yeah.
violin or anything like that.
So is there a place that you've wanted to travel that you have not gotten to go yet?
Croatia.
Okay.
I would love to see Croatia. I would like to go to Africa. I haven't been to Africa at all, and there's lots of different places that I could visit in the continent, you know. Kenya and Tanzania and Rwanda and all the way out to Mali. There's a bunch of different places I would love to see in Africa. Yeah, I would love to do the bus thing. I would love to like buy some sort of little small travel bus live-in situation and then just go drive to different countries and stuff. I think that would be really fun.
Yeah.
Um, oh, I want to start a like a mini farm, like a petting zoo farm. That's on the list, like on the bucket list of things to do. Live in a southern state. I'm not sure which one.
Yeah.
Uh, where else? There's places I would love to see again. It's so difficult. Once you start traveling, you're like, man, I just want to like spend more time in some of these really cool places. But then there's other places I've never seen before that I would like to see. It's very tough.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to getting to travel to different places, I know that I am big on trying to experience it without the commercial corporate aspect of it. So like getting the opportunity to see the things that only exist in those spaces instead of kind of seeing what the touristy world kind of presents to you. And I'm sure that there's lots of people that you know from all over the place to kind of coordinate things. I know just getting to do positive talks like this, I've got invited to some pretty cool things that honestly, I love the online presence because opportunities fall into my lap that I would have never thought of myself. And I think that that's a beautiful thing, like using social media presence to kind of be presented with things you would have never thought of yourself because we're so limited to our own personal experiences. When you open it up to anyone willing to throw things my way, like that's an exciting kind of thing that you get from being known by others.
Oh, big time. Big time. A lot, yeah, a lot of the things that I've experienced, I would have never even gotten to had I not been involved with the people that I was involved with or the studio that helped me get to do something that, there's all kinds of benefits that come along with having a social media personality.
Yeah. So when it comes to the realm of like your close circle of connections, friends, family, like how have you navigated through that with them? Like, are they also people that are kept private, or do you kind of share like your personal experiences? Because I know that's sometimes when I bring friends into pictures, I'm like, is it okay if I tag you? Because there's a chance that you might get lots of followers and messages from people that I don't talk to.
Yeah. So my best friend knows everything. I've had the same best friend since I was 15,
Okay.
and he knows every single aspect of my entire life. And when I have fun, crazy, wild, jaw-dropping or head-shaking experiences, he's the one that I share with those. I share those with him. But for the most part, no, I keep my family relationships and my work life stay pretty separate. You know what I mean? Like that's like ties back into having this separation between my home life and my work life. I have two different personas essentially.
Yeah.
That guy doesn't mix with the other guy, so to speak.
Yeah. I think I made the mistake of mixing the two very early on. And the separation of those two are not the easiest thing to do. I know that I've been trying to move my social platforms to more of my coaching and business and that aspect and content creating and keeping my personal a little bit more personal. But it's definitely something where, I mean, my friends have already been tagged as people who are tied into my life. So people know who to look for. And it's just like bouncing around in that realm is definitely an interesting thing because I mean my mom gets some very interesting messages. I have many conversations with her of like, hey, like be careful what information you're giving people. My mom gave someone my phone number because they said that I scammed them out of thousands of dollars. So she's like, here's his personal number. And then my phone blew up for months, and I was like, it has to be changed. Fix everything behind it, but it's got to be changed.
Oh man, yeah, that's definitely brutal. I'm really glad that I don't bring my mother on social media because people that follow me would also send her some pretty peculiar messages.
Yeah.
That would not be good.
Yeah. I mean, we're getting to the point where like AI is, like we said, we can make someone's face say and do about anything.
Yeah.
I've had very interesting, like people have gotten creative with some of the things, and having as many things of communication, like I'm sure any AI could get my voice down packed pretty well. So it's just making sure the people you love and care about aren't gullible enough to fall for any of that, and just moving forward with it.
Sketchy. Super.
Well, I want to say thank you so much for coming on here and doing this. I really appreciate it. And it was nice getting to know you a little bit better. If there's anything you want to leave as an ending note for the live, feel free to throw it out there. But I just want to say thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I'm really into positive attitudes, positive mindsets, positive outlooks. So when I saw positive talk, I was like, this seems like right up my alley. I like it. Yeah, thank you for having me again. Thank you for asking me to be here. Visit christianwild.com if you would care to see the content that I've been creating myself. And follow me on Instagram. Follow me on Twitter. X. What are we doing now? I don't.
Yeah, I was going to say, does Twitter exist anymore?
Too old for this nonsense. I don't like it. It's no fun. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Ben.
No problem. Have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. Take care.
Bye.